Maybe one day we will stop calling everything by the right name. Dance, it's a possibility for every organism, for every human organism, to have experience of itself and of others. So it's a possibility actually to wear different skins. When I dance as a Butoh dancer, I can feel myself and not only think about myself as a human being more than just a human being. With the queer theory, we understand that we are not a part of a merely human world, and we also have to understand ourselves as part of an environment. We are together with other animals and other creatures that are organic and non-organic. And as a Butoh dancer, you understand how to perform as if you are the sea or the ocean or a broken bicycle through the possibility of mimesis, through the performance, through dance. We can learn a lot about the not merely human world. And also we understand a lot about ourselves. So when I teach, I used to introduce my students into 4 different bodies we have in ourselves. And I think that this methodology, that is also, of course, my FÜYA method and my queer pedagogy method, is useful to wear different skins. So I introduce, for example, my students to our physical body, that is the way we have cells, and we in fact live under our skin and with our organs. So it's just a matter of matter and the mattering and performance of our body. But then there is also another second possibility for our organism to find expression, and that is the emotional body. So all the emotions we are capable of, and this is specifically a human capability of empathize with others and also with other species through emotions, and that is the emotional body. But then we can go farther than these 2 physical and emotional body, and we can describe what I call a spiritual body. So the fact that we can be plants, we can go close to something that has not to do with human feelings. So we can try to empathize and to feel and to wear a different skin, like to be a tiger. How do you feel to be a leaf of a tree, maybe falling in autumn, or the blooming of flowers in spring? All these things, I think they do not have nothing in common with human feelings and human emotion, and that's why I think it's important, this third spiritual body. But then we have another possibility to go farther with our free expression, and it is what I call the remote body. So we can go close to what does not exist, or to what is not existing at this moment. We can go close to ancestors that are not close to us, or friends that they are living in another world. And again, this is not merely human. So yes, I think that the core of all my artistic research is about letting the humanity be more than itself, and that is why I spend a lot of time studying, researching, and then telling about spirituality. And I think that when we go close to our origins, when we go closer, for example, with the gods, the ancestral gods and the ancestral myths of our cultures, we track back our origins and we go back to our not merely human possibility of existence. When we track in our cultures all the myth of the origins, we go back to the androgyne. We go back to a god that is both male and female. And in all cultures, the primogenial divinity or god or goddess, they are not merely human. They have inside of themselves all the organisms. In the origin, they say we had 2 heads, 4 arms, 4 legs, and we were all together in the androgyne. This story is not only about 2 halves of the human organisms that they are meant to be together. It's more than that. It's a myth that tells us when Eros is born. Eros was born as a gift after the curse of the gods. The Presage of the Phoenix was performed and staged here in Vicenza in 2017, and it was a performance divided in 4 acts, all about one of the alchemical phases of the magnum opus. So the first act was about albedo, and I wanted to change the common order of the magnum opus phases because I thought it was very interesting to start in front of the audience with albedo. So this beautiful image of the phoenix coming into the world in its adulthood and with plenty of its possibilities in white. The second act was about Nigredo, and Nigredo staged the death and the agony of the phoenix going to melt into ashes. And then the third act that is also the cover of my book, The Dance of Eros and Thanatos, Butoh and Queer Pedagogy. It was about Citrinitas. I was wearing my red skirt, and it was this experience of the way of the flower. A newborn baby phoenix rising up from the fire, and like a rose from the ashes, blooming and enlightening all the atmosphere around. The final act was Rubedo, and I staged almost naked with a lot of glitter, of golden glitter on my body, and with this traditional white body painting, and I staged as the philosopher's stone, so a body no more linked to humanity, and no more linked even to the phoenix itself. Through our body we can understand a lot of things, not only with our mind, but with all our organs. John Dewey says that our organs are like tentacles made to connect with the world. So this capability to connect and interact with the world, it's not restricted to one world. It goes farther with our imagination, so we can imagine all different worlds. And if we go back in our childhood, we have many occasions to remember how was to live different worlds. We are sirens or dragons, or also maybe a simple computer game. We have in ourselves this capability, and we lose it during our school studies and during our adult life. And so dance gives us this opportunity. That's the reason why we need a spiritual way of performing dance, and also thinking dance, or maybe also telling about dance. For me, devotion is the possibility of finding open expression, and I think that in devotion resides the freedom of our expression, the possibility of being more than simply ourselves. When I track back my memories in my school experience, or also in my everyday work experience and life, I understand that I didn't have the possibility of finding a spiritual connection and a spiritual way of learn. And I started to learn about spirituality, starting my meditation in 2004. And then in 2014, 10 years later, I met my Butoh dance master, Atsushi Takinuchi, and he taught me again how to have a spiritual connection through methodology and through dance. the core of my research, I think it's all about three different paths. One path is about alchemy, and so the science, the sacred science of a transformation. The second one is, of course, dance, performance. And the third path is about queerness or queer theory, or what I call queer pedagogy. In 2017, I was in Rome studying a master's degree in Pedagogy of Expression, and during that program I asked myself, what is the pedagogy of expression in a society that doesn't give the possibility of every organism to feel free of its expressions? Pedagogy of expression had for me to deal with the freedom of expression. And that's why I called my research queer pedagogy, because the queer term gave me the possibility of free all the expressions I wanted to connect with. And so, yes, we need queer pedagogy. We need a methodology of teaching and learning that it's not merely human. It's not connected only with our world. And I think that helps us to found a non-violent society, to found a non-violent culture. And so, what about queer? For example, the queer term in Italian does not exist. It's not translatable. The meaning of this term is not well known here. And I think that in English we can understand this term with three different meanings or possibilities of finding an expression. The first is that queer is like an umbrella that we can use to describe the acronym, the famous acronym LGBT. But a second chance to this term is to be just a part of all different expressions that are not LGBT. So the acronym is often used as like LGBTQ, and also there are these new taxonomies that are being involved in the term. So now we can also address to this acronym as LGBTQAI. But there is a third meaning, a third possibility of using this queer term, and I am more close to this third possibility that questions all the different expressions of our freedom of expression. And I think it's more about a real freedom of expression, because the queer term in the radical queer theory questions our gender expression, our gender identity, and even our biological sex. Do we really need a certificate of birth that tells us that we are male or female? And do we need to have a category that describes us as more masculine or feminine, or as a man or a woman? Or are all these terms interchangeable? Maybe all this is just a performance. And I'm not alone in saying this, because it's famous, the book by Judith Butler. It's called Undoing Gender, and She points out that there is a lot about performativity also in the queer theory. And another book I can tell you about is Meeting the Universe Halfway by Karen Barad. And if we read what Judith Butler and Karen Barad write in the book, we can understand that dance in particular, or performing arts, has a lot to say about this queer term and all the matter of gender studies and gender issues. Alchemy is a sacred science. Alchemists are not merely the first scientists of our world. In fact, alchemy has a little in common with our contemporary chemistry or biology. If we track back the work of alchemists were wise human beings, wise organisms, and they were studying the transformation, the constant transformation of matter. When the alchemist inside this laboratory was performing something with the changes and the transformations of matter, they were just looking for not merely a scientific method of dealing with the creation of the world, but it was a lot about also the psychological experimentation of transformation of the self. The sacred science of alchemy is divided in 4 phases of the transformation of the matter. And the first phase is nigredo. So the transformation of the matter as it is about the transformation of the appearance of the matter. And it's, yes, about death and about destruction. It's a world that is going to die. The death of the matter, the dark matter, has of course a lot in common of the dance of darkness, so in common with Butoh dance. This death in the nigredo and also in Butoh is all about transformation, is about metamorphosis, is about this alchemical process of the matter, of the appearance, of the laws as they are. And so with the breakdown of all the conventions, nigredo starts the transformation path. And so it's in this phase when the phoenix dies and goes into ashes that all is at the end and all is at the beginning. So life and death and right and wrong, and also sun and moon, or masculine and feminine, so all the opposites, all the dualisms, all the categories are broken down and melted. And then there is albedo. Albedo is this second phase of these 4 acts of performance, that is the alchemical process, or magnum opus in Latin. And albedo is more about a new dawn, a new beginning. And this new beginning has again a lot with dualisms. But these new dualisms are no more separated. So when you perform albedo, you are like Kannon, the androgynous divinity in the Japanese pantheon, or like the androgyny in our Mediterranean pantheon. And all these creatures, they are both male and female. They are both the left and the right. They are both the sun and the moon. And all these symbols, like yin and yang in the East culture, they are held together in one piece. And so from the crow, the black crow, there is this new birth. And this new birth is about the swan, the white bird, this beautiful singing that is white and wide and bright like the dawn. After this, when all is held together in one piece and all the dualities are inside of the androgyne, there is a stroke, there is something very bright and improvised. It is like a thunder in the sky, and this thrills you like the first love. And this is Chitrinitas, when you are touched by inspiration. It's about enlightenment. It's short and quick as a thunder, and it lights you up. The fourth phase of the alchemical process of magnum opus is rubedo. It's no more, of course, about a human organism, but it is connected with the all being. It's like a new burning phoenix opening its wings in the universe and going again into the all full universe. And going in this universe is again tracking back our origins into the darkness, tracking back our origins into the cavern, and going again in nigredo. It's always starting again, and there is no an end and no a beginning. The myth and the symbol of the androgyne and also other symbols like Tao or like the cross with the horizontal and the vertical line, all these symbols are all about the connection of our profane dimension with our sacred dimension. Butoh dance and queer theory, and of course queer pedagogy and the alchemical process, they all show us the same path, and it's a path of a not merely human world. We experienced that the nature has a life bigger than our. And for example, during the pandemic COVID virus, we experienced that our problems were not the problems of all the universe, but we are small in front of the eternity and the immensity of the rest of the worlds. Through dance, we can understand this, and I think that this is a very important lesson for all of us, because it gives us a new place, a non-violent place in our society and with our environment. So when we are looking for answers to the problems of our society, like violence, or like the climate changes and the problems of the pollution in the air and in our environments, I think we miss something if we don't dance. When I teach with my classroom, I can divide my class in two ways of being present in dance. Half of the class is very interested in being and study to be an artist in front of an audience, so they are focusing their career in shaping of course, a quality of movement and a quality of feeling in order to find expression and give expression to their artistry in front of an audience. And then there is another half of the class that is present in the dance methodology just to make a research, just to find themselves, like it's a way of meditation and a way of learn more about themselves and their inner world. But what they find and what is the main surprise also for me teaching is then we all understand in our classroom that we are part of a not merely human world. And this is very interesting for society, because this experience gives us the possibility of understand that we are part of the universe, and the universe is bigger than ourselves. Butoh dance taught me how to become more than myself in performance. So we have this mimetic attitude to transform ourselves. Once Kazuo, interviewed by a journalist, was asked why he was dressing as a woman on the stage. And the same did Tatsumi Hijikata, of course. And they use sometimes to wear like a man and sometimes wear like a woman. But it was very interesting, the answer Kazuo said, because he said that he was not trying to wear just a costume, but it was trying to go back, to track back its origins. He was looking to go to the place he came from. And Butoh dancers, they always find inspiration in the child-baby movements, but not only, also in the fetus movement inside the womb of the mother, tracking back the movements of our mother sea, the ocean, the place where our ancestors came from. And even we can track back our origins to the stars, so to the Big Bang Theory, we can say, or to this creation moment that has a lot to do with of course, the stories and the myth of the old cultures about the creation. And so tracking back our body and our organism to its very original place, it has to do with death and life, both holding them together. And this is very important, of course, also for my research, because holding again this dualism, life and death together, has a lot in common between Butoh dance, queer pedagogy, and the alchemical method. We owe our life to the death of many other organisms or creatures or lives. So we owe our life to all the sperm that didn't encounter the ovule of our mom. And so death and life are always together, as well as vigil and rest for us. So we spend some time of the day awake, and we spend another time, usually during the night, falling asleep. And this is again, where is life and where is death? Where is our rest and where is our vigil? Where is the beginning and where is the end of all of this? I think that all of this is performance, is transformation, is metamorphosis. And actually, through dance, through performance, we can understand it, even before thinking of it in our mind, just with our body. The 4 phases of the alchemical method, the magnum opus, and the 4 seasons, or the 4 elements, or my 4 bodies, are all about the transformation of existence and of life. And we can go through them just performing. And that is why I think we really need dance today. We live in a violent society that affects many organisms in their free expression. Wanting to be accepted as we are and not as others would like we to be. The gaze of others, our inner gaze, the voices of our ancestors, our memories and our expectations, all these elements are constantly being negotiated. What does the identification of diversity mean? The trend in our society is towards a proliferation of discourses on sexuality, but do we need these new taxonomies? What is at stake is not only the freedom of expression of the human organism, it is the possibility of leading a life worthy of being lived. Through ritual and transformation, the human organism aspires to return to where it came from. This is the dance of Eros and Thanatos.